Get out there and run.
Get out there and run. That's it.
I like it.
Run light, run to the next street light, run to the next street light, and just see how far you can go, and then turn around, I guess.
I love it. I love it.
I think that's good advice.
Get out there and run. That's it. I'm going to tell it to Wolfman next time he's complaining about something. Running with Maverick and Wolfman. Maverick here.
Wolfman here. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, the big one, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Give us thumbs ups, if that's words, and so we can keep bringing this kind of stuff to you guys. You want to do the intro, Mav? Or you want me to do it?
I'd like you to do it tonight.
Oh, man. Tonight we have a very special guest. We've had him on before. He's done a lot more since we last talked to him. Welcome our good friend, Mr. Hakes.
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Fine.
Good deal. I've got some questions.
Some things have happened. Some things have happened since we last saw you. Why don't we just start at the beginning? What was your race right after we talked last?
So like right after we talked last, I think after the podcast is when I did a 6-hour trail ultra race and got 30 miles in 6 hours. So I think that was after I recorded with you, which that really wasn't a race. That was more of a, I just want to see if I can run for 6 hours. So that was pretty cool.
I know when I heard you had done that, I thought, man, what a way to get ready for a marathon. Let's go run for 6 hours and do 30 miles. So
yeah, and it was
off to you.
On a trail and a lot of elevation, and was not really good help for marathon training at all, but it's just a mental thing. Walking up the hill and down the hill, running the flat parts, and just taking in nutrition as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mental aspect must have been definitely helpful.
Yeah, so it was a 3-mile loop, and you stop by a barn every time. So like just getting to that point every time, and like, all right, let's go again. And I had someone running with me, so that really helped. And everyone in the ultras, everyone seems a little more friendly. It's like you're all battling that same course just as much as you can go, and it was very helpful just seeing a lot of people and knowing it's only 3 miles before I'm back at the safe.
Yeah.
That would be the one positive.
Would you recommend that to anybody training for their first marathon?
Not at all. No. Although,
at least that's honest.
Yeah, I ended up cramping up really bad 4 hours into the ultra, and some guy gave me salt tablets, and I took salt tablets, and the guy right at the barn. Luckily it happened right at the barn where everyone was, like all the helpers, and like they taught me how to stretch my hamstrings, and they're like, all right, grab this pole in the barn and just sit down in a deep squat, and that'll stretch your hamstrings. And I just did it. Like I didn't even know why until later. I'm like, why am I hugging this pole? And I found out, oh, you're hugging the pole to help you get back up because it's the squatting. So that was very helpful to learn that technique.
I gotcha. So was there anything you learned from that you applied to your marathon and marathon training?
Oh, knowing that if you're going to do something stupid, you should be prepared for it. And knowing like I'm going to run a marathon, which is only 26.2 miles.
Only.
Knowing that you got to be able to run for, 3 or 4 or 5 hours, however long it's going to take. So
Yeah.
being prepared definitely helps.
Good. How that?
Well, okay, so you did the ultra, and then how long after did you do the marathon?
The ultra was back in the spring, and then the marathon was in the fall. So plenty of recovery time.
And races in between?
Just a couple 5Ks in between. Took like the whole summer off from racing to specifically train for the marathon. Which luckily I'm a teacher, so I don't have to work in the summer, and I was able to commit to training. I don't want to say full time because it's like 1 or 2 hours a day of doing it, but not having to go to school and work definitely gave me the time to get out there and do it.
Sure, sure. So when you got to the marathon, how are you feeling? Were you feeling confident?
Uh, yes, because um, part of a run club with Coach Schools, and we do our long run every Sunday. So like I was, he's done lots of them, so he was a good help. Lots of wisdom that he shared. Just seeing what he was doing with all his progression runs and long runs, and seeing his training throughout the week. Getting all the advice I could from him, and just long runs every Sundays. I got up to 20 miles a week, or 20-mile long runs on Sundays that I was doing. Which in the summer that was waking up and running at like 5 in the morning, trying to beat the heat because it was humid.
Mm-hmm.
And we run in Tawanda down by the river, and that is just as humid as can be.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Man, I only got my mileage up to about 50 miles a week was my peak, so that's not a lot for marathons, but it was plenty. It was it
Yeah.
was it was it was a lot.
I was going
Yeah,
to
I was gonna
ask you
say.
what you. Sorry, Maverick. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the 50 miles is not bad or anything. I mean, I know it's probably not what you were aiming for, but that's not bad at all.
Yeah. I've
it, it's about
always thought.
what could,
What's that, Scott? Sorry.
it's about what my body could handle, so I was happy with it.
Yeah.
It's better to do that. It's better to train with what your body can handle than to try to push it and then be hurting and be seeing
Yeah,
one of us in the
Yeah.
clinic for physical therapy.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt if you can complete at least 40 miles in a week, you're in shape enough, I feel, to complete a marathon. Now, you're not going to be running with Meb and those guys, but if your goal is to finish a marathon, I think you can sufficiently do that as long as you're getting at least 40 miles or more.
But if you do run that little bit and then run with Meb and those guys, then be on the show, please.
Yes.
Let us know what week you want to be on.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think Wolfman's got a point there. You definitely you have to do a certain amount of training in order to be comfortable, in order to be less likely to be injured during your racing. And once again, marathoning isn't always a race, is it, Wolfman?
No. Just against yourself.
Yeah, psychologically, it's always a race, but
No, I know what you mean. So Scott, how did it compare to your half training? Like you'd already done 5Ks and worked yourself up to a half marathon, and then the marathon is next, which, you know, for those that don't run, it's double a half, right? Like you're doubling what you just trained for. How did you compare the two? What differences were there?
the amount of mileage it's just crazy. Like the strain to put on my body, and like you know maxing out 50 miles, and like that's what I can handle. But I did not do a ton of speed work. It was all getting the volume up, just mileage, 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 and throughout the whole summer. I mean, probably 6 months prior, like every long run's over 10 miles, like half marathons all the time for training. just getting up there, but not a lot of speed work. My goal was to run the marathon 3 hours and 40 minutes, which is like an 8:25 ish pace. And like in all my training, I like my speed work was like 7:30 pace. So like you're not really going fast. Like it's not 5K pace at all. Like I didn't even get close to my 5K pace in any of my training.
Hmm.
So that was very different. But it was
Right.
all
Right.
trying to stay healthy, and I was able to do that.
Good. Good. So what
What what
did you meet your goal or no?
So at the I 3 hours 46, so I was 6 minutes off. There
Okay.
was a pacer at the goal I wanted, 3 hours and 40 minutes, and Wolfman, you can say whether like the size of this marathon. I haven't been to much, but to me, it was a big race. I don't know if it's 1,000 people running with us.
Yeah, it's a good sized race. It's definitely a good sized race.
Wh-
So
which
at
race are we talking about?
the wine glass that was in Corning in October,
Okay.
the wine glass marathon. So we had like 50 people. It seemed like in my group, just running, 4 people wide on the side of the road, maybe 5 people wide, just like big old group running together. And I stayed with that pace group for the first 19 or 20 miles. And then I ended up slowing down a little bit. Um, I had no music at all. I had my phone and headphones in my pocket just in case. And I decided not to do it the whole time. So, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just trying to focus step by step. But the last 10K of it, house is just brutal, and it's like holding on for dear life. I cramped up 24 and a half miles in, and it was my hamstring. And I'm like, oh, I'm a goner. But I found a telephone pole, and I did the deep squat just like I did in the ultra. And like after 10 seconds, it like worked itself out, and I took a couple steps hoping I could still run. I was able to keep running, so like my pace didn't drop off too bad. But 6 minutes behind my goal, which for me I was perfectly fine with.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good, especially for your first marathon. You know, congrats.
Thank you. It was a good time.
What
It
what
is
was your
fun.
motivation to get out and train for it? Like what were you using to help motivate?
Well, I signed up for it last December because that's when the best prices. So I knew I paid a fee for this race, and I'm like, I might as well give it my all. But like I said, I'm a teacher, and so in the summer I've got a lot of free time. I've got a good run club on Sunday mornings that we run together, and just running with those guys is a great time, and we keep each other motivated. It started at the turkey trot a year before with Coach Schools asked me, like he knew I had signed up for the marathon, and he saw what he thought my time could be, and he wanted me to. He's like, you can run a 3 hour and 40 minute marathon, and like that's the goal that we were shooting for me. So because I honestly didn't know like what should I even train for. I had
Hmm.
no clue. Uh, like how does any time relate to a marathon? But I've been told it's like take your half marathon and times it by 2 and add 20 minutes or so. I'm like, that about checks out. So I no clue if I was even gonna get close to my time until about 3 weeks prior. I had a good training run on one of my long runs of 20 miles, and I kind of did some math, and I'm thinking if I put a little bit of extra effort and the weather's a little better, and I think I can make it close to the time. So it kind of all worked out.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, just completing your first one is an accomplishment, and you did an ultra and then did a marathon and did a nice time. So, congrats.
Yeah. So, um, so you already did the ultra. So what's next?
So I did sign up for the World's End 50K, which is in
Okay.
Sullivan. That is a very hard race. The 100K version sells out in about 2 minutes. So I was lucky enough to get signed up for the 50K, and that's in coming up in May.
May. Okay. Okay.
Try to not run so much flat stuff and get some
Now,
more run.
what does that sell in 4 minutes?
That one might have been under 10 minutes, but I got it done
Wow.
in two.
Wow. So what's training like for that?
My plan is to run through the game lands. So I live right by the game lands, and I've got some good 10-mile loops that are just up and down hills. And I live on a farm that's got some old four-wheeler trails and I'm on a hill, so doing a lot more hill work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learn how to do some walk running because in an ultra you can't just run the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to have to learn how to go uphill and downhill better and just work on a lot of more distance stuff. So probably not a lot of speed work coming up for the next few months.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those that don't live in our area, these hills he's talking about, they're mountains. They're more than hills.
Everyone says hills.
Yeah.
You picture this nice little rolling grass covered thing.
And yeah, and the game lands, I mean, there's just mountains of just wood. So he's being kind of humble.
In other words, it's difficult on your vehicle, let alone your body.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
cars don't drive up these things, and he's going to run up them.
the game winter maintenance for most of it, and as long as it's not during hunting season, they're pretty safe to run up and down.
Yeah. Man alive. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you. And at the school, there's hills in every direction at the school, so I
Yeah.
do plan on school more often and just do a bunch of the hills. Probably gonna fall in love with the mountain loop again, which if you've never run, that's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Mountain loop is fun.
So Scott, if you were going to give some advice to a newbie runner who's just starting out, what would you give them? What would you say to them?
I would say sign up for a 5K, and you're only gonna learn how to run by running races. Uh, I assume someone like it's hard to run and to be motivated, but what motivated me was just I kept signing up for more races and I just kept getting faster. And when I signed up for a race, I didn't want to be completely horrible, so that motivated me to train more. And my training at the very beginning, was trying to run a mile or half a mile, which at the beginning I couldn't do, 3 years ago. But I just kept signing up for races and I just kept getting better and better and better.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I think people don't always realize that it takes time for these things. Like you don't just sign up and get going and run awesome times and feel great. You feel pretty awful to begin with. But it's the accomplishment and the goals being met that drives you for the next one.
Oh yeah, I definitely say don't
Or you
sign
just
up.
or you what was that?
Don't sign up for a marathon right away. Don't sign up for a half marathon right away. You've really got to work yourself up and start small with a 5K. There's plenty of people who walk them or run walk them, and I think just about anyone can do a 5K if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I always felt the 5K was nice because you're just done. And it's so much quicker. You can go about your day and enjoy it. Then you sign up for that marathon, and even if you're done and you've never done one before, you might be hurting. You might not want to enjoy anything afterwards.
Oh, the whole experience of a marathon is it's really painful. Like the training, it's a lot, and running the race, it hurts during the race. It's a lot, and then after the race, you're just sore and it hurts.
Yeah.
It sounds wonderful. You really made me
But it's
want to sign up for one.
it's definitely worth.
No, I mean the thing we've had this long-standing joke kind of on the show where Wolfman keeps trying to get me to run the marathon and it never really works out. Well, that 10 miler that he's got on his chest right there. I ran that, and you also ran that, and
Yes,
and
we
let
were
me
there as
tell
well.
you, that was a long race. Now, I didn't train for it like I probably should have, of course, but it was a long race for me. So the thought of doing the 26.2 or the 30 like you did, over 6 hours, either one of those, it's grueling. It's grueling on the body, physically, mentally, on the mind. There's a lot that goes into it, and I applaud all you that do complete these crazy races. But it's quite an accomplishment, but it is a lot on you, and that's why you take breaks and you don't just do back to back. At least most people don't do back to back, right, Wolfman?
Yeah, basically, if you're not getting paid. I mean, some people do. I mean, we had our one guest on, and there's a whole group, the Marathon Maniacs, and it's all about what, two in a weekend, or if you complete two within a month time frame, or three within a month time. Like, there's different things you can do, and but I, even talking to him and others that do that kind of thing, you're not racing all of them. You've got your one you're
Right.
focusing on, and the rest are just to complete them. Just to, yep, I did that. It's off the list. But yeah, most people don't race them back to back. I don't think you can. I couldn't.
I don't think you want to.
Yeah. So the 10-mile race that the three of us ran, that the weather, it was hot, and that was not a pleasant experience. But the beautiful thing about the longer race, the marathon, is it was in the fall, so it was much cooler. Like it was, I was trying to decide if I needed to wear gloves or not during the race. Like that's how cold it was, and I ended up going with no gloves.
Yeah,
But just knowing you're going to run a much slower pace than a 10-mile race, like made it a lot more comfortable. Just you are going to suffer for longer, but it's not like I've had a lot of people tell me a 5K is the hardest race because you're running as fast as you can for 20 minutes, and like you're just redlining the whole time. Versus a marathon, like you're not actually going so fast during a marathon. It's just going what you can for as long as you can.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't prefer 5Ks anymore because of that. I don't like the feeling of redlining so much anymore. Now, every once in a while, um, absolutely. But there he is. He's back. But yeah, I don't like the redlining of
Yeah,
the
I
5K
disappeared. I don't
anymore.
know what happened.
Magic. No, I was just saying how I don't care for 5Ks as much anymore because I don't like that feeling of redlining the whole time. Every once in a while, it's nice to get that kind of a workout in where you've just put it all on the line, and that you feel exhausted but good at the same time. But I'd rather run something longer and slower.
I'd rather run really fast, really hard, and get it done.
Not me.
I don't know. I think there's like preferences. Like some people are sprinters and they never want to run any distance ever. Like if you say run a mile, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's the end of the world. I'm okay with running distance. I don't preference the really long stuff, the hours of it. That's I like those shorter distances for some reason.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask again a couple more questions, Scott. So you started about what 3 years ago? You said in the beginning, running was difficult. It was not an easy task. You were working on just getting used to running and racing, and you were signing up for lots of races. So, like, where did the interest really come from? Like, where was the moment where you're like, I want to be a runner, and this is what I want to do? Like, was there someone that motivated you? Was there something? Can you take us back and kind of fill us in on that?
Yeah. So the school I teach at, they host a race every year, and I volunteered to help out. And I saw a bunch of my coworkers running it, and then I saw them running it, and I'm like, maybe I can do this next year. And then so in 2022, I just signed up with no training at all to run it, just because like my coworkers were running it, and like a lot of them were older than me. Like, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too. And like, so I ran it, and well, I did not. My first 5K, I did not run the whole thing. It was a running, walking, because I couldn't even run the 3 miles. But I was able to complete the race, and just talking to my coworkers and being part of that culture of running, like I just decided I was going to start doing it. It
So
wasn't
the
a
like the camaraderie.
Yeah, the camaraderie, and like I I'm a Clydesdale, over 200 pounds. Uh, so like trying to get into better shape, And running was an easy, no, not easy, but a good way for me to do it. Like it doesn't take a lot to run. I got myself some
Mhm.
running. And at the beginning, I was just running in gym shorts and a t-shirt, and that's how I got started. It's just doing it.
So camaraderie and the convenience really helps spur it on for you.
Yeah, like where Wolfman and I are from, it's not like there's a lot of places to go play recreational basketball
Right.
or I, anything really. There's not a lot of gym stuff, so like get on a pair of shoes and go outside and start running.
Yeah,
I always enjoyed the convenience of it because you could pretty much do that anywhere.
right. And you don't need a lot of equipment, like you said.
Now that being said, the amount of equipment runners have is a lot. You know, when you have your multiple pairs of shoes and shorts and
Yeah,
shirts,
But that's
gloves.
fun.
yeah. You don't need those.
It's just for fun. That's the interesting gear.
Yeah,
When I've learned over the years, as you sign up for more races, they have the better swag, and that's where I've been getting like my shirts and my hoodies and uh,
yeah.
Wyoming Valley 10-mile run. That hoodie I wear a lot. That's very comfortable in the low
I,
30 degrees.
I still don't
It
have
is.
mine. I still have to pick it up.
Gee whiz, man. You got to talk to Gareth.
I forgot. I was supposed to, and I completely forgot. And I do need to reach out to him. I will.
So I have a question for you, Scott. It's kind of from a listener, but so a few weeks back, a listener asked, "How do I find people to run with? Like, how do I find a group?" And I myself, I primarily run alone. I've got some friends I'll run with at times, but I know you meet with a group most Sundays. Like, how did you find that group?
Uh, my best friend's a runner, and he was helping like train me and coach schools. They're friends because they both coach cross country, and so like we decided we were going to run together, and it started with three of us, and then we got up to like 9 people at a time, and we just know we're going to meet every Sunday at the same time, and we're going to run.
So you found one runner and snowballed it into a group.
Yeah, that's all it
Yeah.
took. And
Word of
I
mouth,
know
I
at
think.
work, yeah, at work, like there's got to be people around different people's jobs like that might want to run or walk or something. There's plenty of runners out there. You just got to ask around, I guess.
I think that's an excellent point. I think there's definitely like runners around, but you don't always know who runs and how they run until you like see them at a 5K or something like that. And you're looking at them, you're like, you run? I didn't even
Yeah,
know that. And you race too? And then all of a sudden it's a big conversation. And they're asking you questions. You're asking them questions. It definitely works out that way. I think what you said about signing up for races is definitely key to be motivated and to find other people for that camaraderie and to run with for training purposes because it is much easier to train with someone than to train alone.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
especially on the long runs, because if you're running for an hour or 2 hours by yourself, that to me that's not so enjoyable. But when you're running with a group of people you know and you can talk to for an hour or two, that's the time flies by.
Let me ask you this one. Have you, like, on those really long runs, have you ever just gotten to a point where you're just like, I have no idea where I'm at right now?
You
No,
asking me or him?
Both of you. Scott, you go first.
if you're asking me, our run group, we do the same exact loop every time, so we will never get lost. Sometimes we repeat the same section over again to get different mileage, but nope, we stay on the same path, so we have never gotten lost.
Got it.
I have definitely ended up in the wrong place, but then eventually figure out where I am and determine from there if it's a runnable distance back or time to call the wife.
Yeah, that's always the dilemma with running really really long distances. I mean, I know back in college we used to go on runs like that where we'd end up we'd be like, not exactly sure where we're at, but pretty sure we can make it back.
I've had shorter runs though, where like you're running a 6 mile loop, you run all the time, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, how do you get to this point in the run? Just kind of zoned out for a while. Lucky you didn't get hit by a car.
Yeah, I think there's that muscle memory and that tendency, like even when you're driving, that same kind of thing where you kind of are doing the routine, and it's so routine to you that you kind of are zoning out a little bit. That definitely happens on the run at times. where you are working through a certain section and you're like, wow, that went by. I don't remember the last mile and a half. And I'm not talking about like confusion where like you're
Right.
dehydrated or something like that. I'm talking about like actually like you're still in the zone, you're still awake and alert, but you aren't super focused on all the details for some reason.
Yeah.
So Scott, what's the next big adventure? Do you take a break now and go on vacation and maybe just, chill out, ice the feet? What are we doing now?
So after the marathon in October, I did do Wyoming Valley Striders 20K in November and the Turkey Trot in Sayre. And then I did take about 10 days off just to rest my body. And then I've been working myself up since then. But no big adventures. But I did take that downtime after the racing season ended, and I gradually building myself back up.
And
So
that
I
was probably really difficult to do, right? Like that was probably hard mentally to stop for 10 days.
well, I knew I needed it because it was a grueling summer putting in all those miles, and I kept pushing it. I'm like, okay, just get to November, get through the turkey trot, see what I can do, and then I'm like, I need to rest just because you need an off season.
And 10 days, let's be frank about this. 10 days is not going to make you lose all of your fitness because I get asked this a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, if you take off 3 months, you're going to lose lots of fitness too, but you're almost never going to lose all of your fitness. You're going to lose it to a certain degree, which is able to be gained back again. Now, in my case, I wasn't running long distances for many years. I obviously lost quite a bit, but once again, you can gain a lot of it back over time as long as you're still a healthy, human being and whatnot.
Yeah, I made sure I kept the diet in check for those 10 days and didn't do anything crazy, so that helped.
Right. And yeah, that's wise, like to keep your good habits, but just not be beating your body up with the run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then coming back into it, realizing like I can't, jump back up to my mileage like it was. It's like ease into it to stay healthy, and it's like, all right, we're starting over with 10 miles a week and going up 10% each week, something like that. And I haven't even
Right.
gotten back up to 30 miles a week yet. So I mean, I'm just
Well,
going nice and easy. But
I'm not sure if Wolfman looks at it this way, but I always looked at it as a different season. So when you take that time off, no matter if it is an actual break in seasons, you could just look at it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I used to. I don't so much anymore. It just depends on what I'm training for. But, you really, I think it takes about 14 days. You start to lose fitness and you're at about 98% of where you are. And then it kind of does do this. So the longer you take off, the more steep that decline in your fitness gets. And that can be harder to get back. But, if you're talking a few weeks, you're still at a pretty high percentage of what you were. You still don't want to jump right back into 100%, but um, I think I think people err on the side of caution more than they have to, which is good. It's a good way to prevent injury, but you don't have to be so far off of where you left off if you only took 10 days off. You're going to be sore, but you could almost start right back off where you left. So
Right.
um, it took me a long time to realize that. Even knowing that information, it really took until we talked to Matt that we had on. That's the marathon maniac, and I was like, wow, yeah, I don't need to take a month off and start back at 20 miles. Like I could take a couple days off and start back at 30 miles if I want to. So sometimes you just need those eye openers. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think there's a lot about listening to your body, and understanding how your body works and what it needs, and that takes years to develop.
yeah,
Now, Wolfman, I have another question for Scott. It's my last questions, but this this one is, I think we might have touched on this in the previous episode with you, but how's your family with all this? How's the embracing of all this running that you're doing? Is your family starting to get involved? Do they want to be part of it? Do they just like the excitement of the races? Is someone running with you now? Like, how's that going?
so my kids are not old enough to run with me. My wife's not a runner at all, but they're very supportive. My wife was there at the marathon to be able to drive me home, She was there at the ultra 6 hour race to take my shoes off for me because I couldn't bend down to take my shoes off. Uh, so yeah, they're always there for me when I need them. Uh, my daughters, they might be runners, but who knows? You know, they play soccer and basketball and softball, and who knows by the time they get into high school if they'll switch to running or not. But they see me doing it, and they know it's healthy, and they know they need to, do their sports and play outside and get all their exercise. So, like, I think I'm being a role model to them by me running or me playing basketball or me being active is showing them they need to be active.
Sure. Sure. No, I think that's great. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, let me just suggest something. I mean, you could get like a 3-person stroller and you could push everybody in it. What do you think?
Don't really have the running train for that around here.
Those hills will be mighty tough, but it
Yeah.
will definitely come back and help you.
These hills are dirt roads and rock. I don't think a stroller's going up these hills.
Imagine
I
the size of your quads, though. They'd be Volkswagens on your thighs.
This guy's incredible at hills. I have no idea why.
I've
No, you
never
ever?
tried the take my shoes off for me thing, dear. I'm gonna have to do that the next marathon. Like, oh, could you take my shoes off there, Mrs. Wolfman?
I
I'm pretty sure I'd be like cut them off and burn them.
I really could not reach my feet, so like she had to do it for me. So that was awesome.
So what is that? You're just that sore that you can't bend down? Is that what it is?
After the 6 hours of running, yes,
Yeah.
I couldn't. I could not. Like I could sit down, but I couldn't bend my legs to reach my feet. Like they had to be straight out, and she had to take them off, and then I had to slide into my Crocs.
This, it sounds like it's it sounds like so like do you feel that during the run like that tightening up or is that mostly after you're done when you're just trying to like get around?
It was just when you're done,
Yeah.
like there wasn't any cool down or anything from a big long run. Maybe
Yeah.
they're supposed to be, you know, uh,
I
but it
would.
was I was and I was sitting down, and my legs, the muscles just stopped working. I guess.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, like physiologically, I mean, your body kind of has to repair, and as soon as you
Yeah.
stop, it's going to go right into that mode of like inflammation, repair, and get
Lactic
going.
City, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I just never really thought about like the immediate onset of. I thought it'd be more gradual than that, but that's pretty crazy. Because like when we run races, we'd be sore like later. Get up from the dinner or like the next morning, you'd be super tight and sore, but you wouldn't have that immediate effect. Like you'd be able to walk to the bus and have a good time and jump around and stuff.
Yeah. So here's some advice for anyone who's doing these long runs: is the next day, like the day after the race, get out and run a mile. The active recovery, and I was trying to run a mile after the 6 hour run the next day, and it probably took about 13 or 14 minutes to get a mile. But
And
like
that was
it really
flying.
helped. It was the hardest mile I've ever done in my life.
That's what I'm saying. I was flying. I was
It
really
was like
cooking,
all out trying to just get my legs to get into running form.
running in paste.
Yeah.
What's funny is after the 10 miler, I did go out for a mile. I didn't think I had no intention of this, but I did go out for a mile, and I ran the mile, and I was like, oh, that was nice. That was a nice little mile, right? A little sore, but not bad. Loosened my legs up. Then my wife was like, let's go run again later, and she just kept running. So I kept doing mile after mile, and I think I ended up doing like I forget if it was like 8.5 miles or something like that the next day, and I was like, this is not planned at all. So the third day I was really sore. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
I mean, I've tried all kinds of different things, and I think Scott's right. I think if you can get out that next day for something really easy, and then maybe that second day after be the day you just take off, I've probably felt the best doing it that way.
Yeah. There's so many options. That's the beauty of it. There's so many different things you can do and how you can figure it out. And it's not going to work for everyone the same way. And especially depending on where you're at in your running career. it's not going to be the same either. Because if we talk to you, Scott, 5 years from now, you might tell us something completely different than what you're telling us now, because your body is completely different.
That's true, but yeah, but everyone I've talked to that's done any type of ultras or, I guess ultras, they've told me like you got to get out the next day and do active recovery. So that's where I'm at now, just from listening to other
Yeah,
people.
that's all you can do. So, Wolfman, any more questions?
I had one more, but I think we covered it. It was about what do you tell people to kind of get motivated, as this is the time of year people are trying to get out and do life-changing habits and get in better shape and stuff like that. But I think we covered that one.
Scott, is there a book or a movie that you'd recommend for someone who's listening to the show that wants something, either motivating, inspiring, something to help them out?
Nothing at all. I've read books. I've watched no running movies.
So don't
No,
read, don't watch movies,
Just get out there and do it.
just run.
get out there and run.
Get out there and run. That's it.
I like it.
Run light, run to the next street light, run to the next street light, and just see how far you can go, and then turn around, I guess.
I love it. I love it.
I think that's good advice.
Get out there and run. That's it. I'm going to tell it to Wolfman next time he's complaining about something.
I have realized running this time of year, just getting outside for 30 minutes or an hour really helps me not be sick.
Yeah.
Getting all the fresh air, I feel like that helps so much.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. It's weird, but it's true. And yeah, for sure. Now, do you tell your students that get out there and run? Is that posted in the classroom? Extra credit points?
No, but I have a thought that there should be a desk outside of my window out on the that would be very helpful for some students to get some fresh air, but I don't think that's going to be allowed.
I'm all for it. Students should be able to exercise during school. They should be able to get outside. We don't need to be cooped up.
Tell them to join the cross country team. Come out for track and cross country.
There you go.
Well, Scott, I appreciate coming on the show, just like you did last time.
Thank you.
Great talking with you, hearing your stories about where you've obviously come a long way already, and it's great to hear that progression and how you're sticking with it, and you found this love for running. And I'm very happy that your family and your friends are helping you out in this journey as well. Someday, I'm hoping that you can push that stroller and then send us a video of it, though. If they don't want to be in it, me and Wolfman, and we'll get one other person, maybe the Jackal, and you can push the three of us.
All right, maybe downhill.
There you go.
Let go.
I'll get out first. You can let them go downhill.
This is not part of the plan.
Bring your helmets.
There's some steep hills up there.
Yes, there are. Fun stuff. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on, Scott. It's been great.
All right, thank you guys for having me.
All right, Scott, appreciate it. Maverick and Wolfman running out.